that is Brian May. But Brian does join us now on the line from the UK. Brian May, it's an absolute pleasure. How are you?
I'm very good, Richard, thank you. It's a bit difficult line. I hope you can hear me.
I can hear you loud and clear. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but you're a little woolly.
I'm a little woolly. Sorry about that. Listen, thanks for coming on. I know you do.
Pleasure.
You do hundreds of these a week, a day, and
I don't actually. I don't speak to anyone.
Well, I see you all the time talking to the BBC and other big radio stations. Tell me about Save Me. Tell me about when you set it up and why you set it up.
Well, I actually set the thing up in the run-up to the election because I suddenly realised that we were about to possibly get a government which was going to attempt to bring back fox hunting with dogs. And I was so appalled at this return to barbarity that I realised that something should be done. And what I tried to do was just alert people to the fact that it was a possibility because it was all being swept under the carpet. So that was really the beginning of it. I'd already been involved in various animal issues, trying to save animals in various ways, but Save Me became a serious issue in the run-up to the election. And of course, we will never know how much of a difference we made, but we didn't get the Conservative government that we looked like we were going to get, but we got something very similar. We got this government which we call the condemned government, which unfortunately is very un-animal friendly.
You would have been, the previous government the ban on fox hunting came in under the previous government, and you would have assumed, Brian, that if the Conservatives had got in a majority, that they would have repealed that. That was a worry of yours.
Yes, it's absolutely certain that David Cameron still has this in his mind. He's not able to deliver his promise to the hunting community because it's by no means certain that a free vote would give him the result he wants. But he and a number of others in the top end of the Conservative Party are working very hard to try and bring back all these blood sports. It's not just fox hunting, it's hunting stags with dogs, and hare coursing, a particularly unpleasant and cruel sport.
Now, we've heard from the pro-hunting lobby in the past, Brian. They say all the time, look, unemployment in rural areas has gone up because of a ban on fox hunting. We've had to end up culling a lot of dogs, a lot of these hunting dogs, beagles, I think they're called. And ultimately, we don't really kill a lot of foxes every year. And we're doing a great service to the countryside and a great service to farmers. I know you have an answer for that.
It sort of makes me laugh, really. If anyone's interested, I do have a lame claims section on the Save Me website. There's a lot of really lame excuses for hunting foxes. Yeah, one of the excuses is they have to be kept down, the numbers have to be down, which is totally lame because they actually don't need their numbers controlling. And it's now known that the hunts actually encourage the breeding of foxes so they can go out and enjoy killing them. All sorts of other lame claims. Yes, it provides employment to the countryside. Well, the same thing was said about the slave trade. Years ago, people were saying, we can't possibly get rid of the slave trade. It gives, it's the centre of our society, and it gives employment to all these people. So it's all absolute rubbish. The ban was brought in a few years ago, and there's nobody out of work. There's plenty of other things you can do in the countryside besides breeding dogs to tear animals apart.
I do understand that when people are polled on this across Great Britain, I can only speak for the Republic of Ireland. I did live in Britain for a number of years, but I was never asked my own opinion on it, Brian. But I understand that when the polls are done, that still the vast majority of British people do not agree with the hunting of animals for sport, are abhorred by it, or generally don't like it. Is that right?
It's absolutely true. There's been another opinion poll quite recently, and the majority of the British public are totally against the return of blood sports. It's just a few people who unfortunately are in power, and I guess we put them in power somehow, who want to preserve that sort of privilege. It's an ancient kind of... It is to do with privilege. I resisted this idea for a long time. I thought this can't be anything to do with class, but from the top end, it is really. There's a certain kind of person who's born and bred that way, and thinks they have the right to ride roughshod over animals, people, anything they like. And it's something which a certain class of a person in Britain fights very hard to keep hold of, this idea of privilege. But it needs to go, because it's an excuse for all sorts of cruelty. And of course there is a direct cruelty. There's a direct correlation between people who are abusive to animals and people who are abusive to children. So we really need a zero tolerance policy towards cruelty.
We certainly do. I mean, I agree with that. My listeners won't be surprised because I'm a liberal anyway, and I grew up in a town, in a city, so I would have reservations about fox hunting as a way to deal with the nuisance that can be foxes. I've got a caller on line 1 who wants to ask you a question. He's Nigel, and Nigel is in the Republic of Ireland. Nigel, welcome to the programme.
Hi, Richie, how are you? Hi, Brian, how are you?
I'm good, thank you, Nigel. How are you doing?
Brian, sorry, can you hear me there?
Yes, I can hear you very well.
Sorry, the line is a bit jumpy. Brian, I'm a lifelong Queen fan and collector of all things Queen, Brian, and there's a lot of things I could ask you now that I have the opportunity, but I appreciate you're discussing the animal welfare today, so I want to respect that, Brian. And therefore, can I just ask you, how would you compare the feeling you get maybe from writing and recording an album with the sense of achievement then you must get from educating and changing people like myself who are big Queen fans, and we support Save Me, and because of yourself, and I maybe would have been on the fence before if I wasn't a Queen fan, but the fact that I am a Queen fan, and then I kind of jumped straight on it. So I just wondered...
it's an interesting question. Yeah, it's a very interesting question. Really, the truth is I don't want to be doing the animal thing. I wish that nobody had to do it. I do it because I think somebody has to do it, and I have a certain kind of power because of where I am to make a change for the better. But given the choice, I would rather be in a world where people didn't have to campaign to treat to make animals treated decently. I would rather just be making music all the time. There are moments of satisfaction, but I have to tell you, there's an awful lot more moments of frustration and despair and sadness, because there is so much awful treatment of animals which we have to look at.
It's obviously working, because maybe people like me and there are thousands and thousands of other Queen fans who are the same, who would have gone the other side now because of the work you do.
I very much appreciate that. It means a tremendous amount to me that I've made a difference in some small way. And I'm hoping that the people that I'm able to inspire will be able to make a difference. Yeah, it has to be, in my mind, something that grows and grows, and you have to start with the small seeds.
Nigel, thanks very much for that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Richie. Thanks, Brian.
Good to talk to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Brian, you said something extraordinary when you spoke to the BBC last year. You said that despite everything you've achieved as a musician, and I mean, my God, top 30 greatest guitar players of all time, 300 million albums, you'd rather be remembered, I think, I'm paraphrasing what you said, for your animal rights work than for the music. Is that right?
Yes, it's true. I would like to feel that I made a difference to the world. I think it's a very, very big thing, much bigger than people realise. I think we need to make this change for the rest of the creatures on this planet, but also for us as a human race. I think we have to make this jump before it's too late, before there aren't any creatures left apart from humans on the planet. So to me, it is a very big thing. If I can even make a small change, I will die a lot happier.
When I watch the Queen in concert videos, there's so many of them, they're amazing videos, of course, Brian. One of the things that always gives me a shiver down my spine is when you and Freddie are singing, "Is This the World We Created?" That song has never been more poignant than now when we're looking at the situation in the Middle East, in Syria, in Iran. That song has never meant more, I don't think, than it does now.
Interesting. Yeah. Again, you don't want it to be true, do you? It would be nice if we lived in a world where this wasn't true, but we live in a world where there is so much wrong. I just had an interesting lunch with a former mayor of London, Ken Livingstone, and he said something very similar. I asked him, I said, what would you like to change in the world before you die? And he said, almost everything. And I feel the same. There's so much that we've got wrong as a human race. There's good in us, but we are doing a terrible, terrible job as custodians of this beautiful blue planet at the moment.
There's been a number of questions that have come in from, I'm not going to keep you too much longer because I know you have other things to do. There's been a number of questions coming in from listeners that I'm getting in now. Would you believe, by the way, I was thinking of you at the beginning of the programme because we broadcast from the majestic 5-star Kempinski Hotel. We built purpose-built studios here. But just as I was coming on air, we had a bit of a big bang and some of our systems went down here. And I was thinking what would have been like back in the day being Brian May and Queen when things started to go wrong. What would you do? But all of the emails are flooding in now. One of the emails that we're getting in is, Brian, you are one of the most instantly identifiable people in the world, which you are, there's no doubt about that. Politics, Brian, a career in politics. Could you, as an MP or an MEP, do more on these issues than as Brian May, the rock star activist?
It's an interesting question. I've never wanted to be a politician, and I'm really not one now. I deal with politicians, but really, I don't want to become an MP because I think that would disempower me. You know, I've discovered I'm actually rather disillusioned with the whole idea of MPs. I always imagined they were very highly motivated and inspired people, but most of them are just doing it as a job, and they want to advance themselves in the world. They want to be rich and famous. They want to be prime minister. You know, I find it very discouraging. I don't want to be one of those people. I'm actually much freer to try and make a change if I'm not politically aligned. So I'll talk to anybody in any party as long as they're doing something about animal welfare.
Now, there's going to be a lot of people listening. I know you're aware that in Spain, pretty much all of the expats here, not just English expats or Irish expats, but expats from all over Europe, are big lovers of animals, big lovers of dogs, and they're going to be very interested in the work you're doing. Most of them will know about it anyway. But apart from www.save-me.org.uk, what can people do, Brian, that are concerned about the culling of badgers and the worry that fox hunting is going on and that might be coming back? What can people do?
I think the best thing we can all do is keep talking about it and keep it in our minds and not let it get swept under the carpet. And the government is about to slaughter thousands and thousands of our badgers in the countryside. There will be a bloodbath, you know, unless we get concerned and unless enough people stand up and shout about it. Keep talking. Visit our website. Visit... Go to 38 Degrees and sign the petition against the badger cull, please, because it will all help.
Yeah.
But I think mainly spread the word. Make sure that this idea that animals actually do matter and every animal matters. Make sure that these ideas get spread around because time is running out.
Got to say, it's been a real pleasure having you on the programme today, Brian. Thanks for coming on and doing it. The badger cull is very important that it doesn't go ahead, that these things have to stop. I totally agree with you. We'd love to pick this up again with you, maybe a couple of months down the road. And anytime Brian, you want to get any message out to the hundreds of thousands of expats in Spain, let us know here at iTalk FM. We'll always have you on. Real pleasure.
Well, my message is enjoy and send me a little sunshine because it's a little dull here today.
A little bit miserable there. The great Brian May, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks for giving us your time and we'll catch up with you again soon. God bless. Bye-bye.